What up, though? It's your boy Ron T, the Icon, and it is this week's iconic moment of the week. A moment that's so iconic that it lives on or will live on in wrestling history. And this one is from the past. The year was 1999. The big wrestling game that year was WCW versus NWO Revenge. And the WWF and the WCW was smack dab in the middle of the Monday Night Wars. And the day was August 9th. This episode of Monday Night Raw was kind of like any other Monday Night Raw. The Rock was in the ring. He was calling out the Big Show, giving him his verbal cardio as he does, just tearing down the Big Show. And then all of a sudden, the lights dimmed. The Rock turned towards the Titantron and it was a countdown clock. 10, 9, 8. The Rock's pacing back and forth, wondering what the heck is going on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lights go completely out. Everybody's wondering. The crowd is hushed. And then, pow! Pyro goes off. Yeah, you know I got you. Yeah. Break the walls down! And Jericho pops up across the Titantron. The fans are going crazy. I'm going crazy because, like I said, the big game was WCW versus NWO Revenge. And I had just recently became a really big WCW fan as well. I used to switch between Nitro and Raw, back and forth, catch and see what's going on at once. On the Revenge game, Chris Jericho was my favorite wrestler, which translated to him being my favorite wrestler in WCW. Now, the month before, the Radicals showed up, which was Chris Jericho. It was Eddie Guerrero. It was Chris Benoit. It was Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn, and that was the first time that I saw somebody defect from WCW to WWF, and I had no idea what was in store when Chris Jericho showed up, because back then there was no big spoilers across the internet. There was no tweets or any of that stuff. It was an actual surprise. So Chris Jericho stands up right at the top of the ramp. He gets the mic and he proceeds to tell everybody how he is the savior of Monday Night Raw because it's become stale. And he goes on a 3-minute promo / rant. It was about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. And when he gets done, The Rock says, after 3 minutes of hearing you talk, know your role and shut your mouth. How dare you show up on The Rock show and not have the decency to introduce yourself? What is your name? And he says, I told you, man. He said, it doesn't matter what your name is. The crowd goes crazy. But just that moment, that sealed the fate for Chris Jericho, because that put him in a feud with the top guy in WWF at that time, which was The Rock, which automatically set Chris Jericho up to be a top star. See, WWF at that time had been a place for undersized guys that were being underutilized for WCW. That moment, Chris Jericho became a top guy, which also eventually brought in Rey Mysterio and some of the other smaller guys that weren't really getting the love that they should have been getting in WCW. And this is an iconic moment because everybody who was a WCW fan were shook. And that was the turning point of WWF finally winning the Monday Night Wars, which eventually led to them buying the WCW and them all becoming one big conglomerate company. But I remember this because Chris Jericho still to this day is one of my favorites of all time, and he came to the WWF, which made me a sole WWF fan from that point going on. Now, next week I have something else good for you, but I'm glad you enjoyed this one. It's your boy Ron T, the Icon from the Holy Podcast, and this was my iconic moment of the week.